Did you know that real luxury living doesn't begin with a Rolex watch on your wrist or a Ferrari parked outside? It starts with how you think, what you let yourself believe, and how you carry yourself, even if all you have in your pocket is loose change. Most people say they want wealth, but deep down, they still think like they're broke. In this video, I'll share 7 powerful mindset shifts that completely changed how I live. They're the reason I became someone who naturally attracts success instead of chasing it. And at the end of this video, I'll give you a simple tool you can start using right away. So don't skip it. Let me ask you something. Why is it that a poor person can win $1 million and be broke again within a year, while a wealthy person can lose everything and bounce back twice as fast? It's because real wealth isn't about your bank account. It's about how your mind works. I've always said, if you want to have more, you have to become more. Success doesn't come from running after money. It comes from becoming someone new. And today, we're going to talk about how to become the kind of person luxury finds without effort. This mindset has nothing to do with showing off. It's not about expensive things. It's about self-worth, quiet confidence, and inner stability. It's not just putting on a $1,000 suit. It's wearing it like you know you're worth it. When I started, I had nothing. I was young, broke, lost, and had no idea what to do. I didn't grow up with financial knowledge. I was raised on a farm in Idaho. But then, I met someone who changed how I thought forever. His name was Earl Schaff. He told me something that stuck with me for life. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. At first, I didn't get it. But once I did, everything in my life started to grow. My income, my mindset, my results, all of it. So what is a luxury mindset? It's not just about thinking rich thoughts. It's knowing deep down that you're valuable. It's when you stop settling for average. It's when you stop making excuses for what's missing. It's when you stop surviving and start creating. It's knowing your worth and making bold choices. It's surrounding yourself with people who lift you up instead of pulling you down. It's investing in yourself, not when it's convenient, but as a daily priority. That's what real luxury means. That's why I want to walk you through the 7 shifts that changed everything for me. They took me from debt to financial freedom, from self-doubt to being on stage, from surviving to leading. These changes didn't happen overnight. They weren't some magical moment after reading a book. They came from daily work, from changing how I thought step by step. There's something I always say to my students. Discipline is the bridge between goals and results. Without discipline, mindset stays a dream. With it, mindset becomes a habit. And habits are the real engine behind success. Here's something else I learned. A luxury mindset isn't loud. It doesn't need to shout. It doesn't try to prove anything. It's calm. It's steady. Like a seed growing underground, unseen but strong. By the time people say, you're just naturally confident, you've already changed quietly from the inside out. If this already makes sense to you, hit like and subscribe. Let's keep going. In this video, we'll unpack each of the 7 mindset shifts. I'll show you how they worked in my life and how they can shift things for you too. But listen closely. This isn't just a list of advice. It's a way of thinking. You have to take it in, not just in your mind, but in your body. And like I said earlier, I'll share one small practice at the end that can turn your mornings into a stronger start. It's a habit that takes 5 minutes, but helps your day feel clear, focused, and elevated. So before we begin, I want to ask you something. If your life were a work of art, would you rather be the artist or just a smudge in someone else's painting? Because every habit you form is a brushstroke. Every thought is a line. Every choice adds color. A luxury mindset is when you start creating on purpose. Ready? Let's begin. Mindset 1. Every minute is capital. The first mindset shift that changed my life forever was this. I started treating myself as an investor, not as a spender. And I don't mean just with money. I'm talking about energy, attention, and time. I realized that every single minute of my day was a form of capital. And the question was no longer, how much do I have? The real question became, where am I investing it? That change in perspective separated who I was from who I had the potential to become. Back when I was 25, I was broke and directionless. I sat in the kitchen surrounded by unpaid bills and had no idea how to climb out of that hole. Then I had a conversation with Earl Schaff, And he said something I'll never forget. Start keeping track of where your time and energy go. It sounded simple, maybe even too simple, but I listened. I picked up a small notebook and began writing things down. Every hour I tracked what I was doing, who I talked to, what I read, how I spent my time. Within a few days, I saw the truth clearly. I wasn't investing in anything that gave me a return. I was wasting hours watching TV, getting into arguments about politics, complaining about things I couldn't control. Not a single one of those activities moved me forward. Not financially, not mentally. That's when I drew a line and made a decision. From today on, I only invest in what builds me. So I started reading 30 minutes a day without fail. I stopped spending time talking about people. Instead, I talked about ideas. I stopped focusing on problems I couldn't fix. I began studying principles that helped me grow. And slowly, things started to shift. Not overnight, but one good decision at a time. Because when you change where your energy goes, your outcomes begin to follow. Here's a question I often ask my audience. What have you been investing your attention in this past week? Think about it honestly. Are you getting anything back from it? A luxury mindset isn't about how much you own. It's about how well you choose. Every day we face dozens of small decisions. Wake up on time or hit snooze. Read one valuable page or scroll mindlessly through your phone. Give someone a compliment or say nothing. And it's these daily decisions that quietly shape your direction. Not the big moments, the ordinary ones. There's a concept I live by. You're either a source of energy or you're a drain on it. You either feed your thinking with useful input or you let it get drained by worry, comparison, and distraction. And unless you make the choice to become a source, your time and attention will keep slipping through your hands. That's why the mindset changed when I told myself, I don't spend anymore, I build. I remember sitting next to a successful businessman on a plane. We started talking, and I asked him, what's one habit that changed your life? He didn't hesitate. He said, I never walk into my day without planning it the night before. That one line changed everything for me. Because a luxury mindset isn't chaotic, it's intentional. It's not about reacting. It's about preparing. So I started doing the same. Each night I'd ask myself two things. How do I want to feel tomorrow? And what do I need to do today to create that feeling? It took 5 minutes. No money, no tools. Just a choice. But the effect was massive. Because once I started planning with intention, my mornings stopped feeling rushed. I stopped waking up behind. And slowly, better people started showing up in my life. People who didn't waste time complaining. People who valued growth. It wasn't luck. It was alignment. I often say, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you start investing in yourself, life tends to introduce you to people who are doing the same. Here's what I believe is the first and most important truth of luxury thinking. Stop living in reaction. Start living in decision. Because when you react, you lose control of the outcome. But when you decide, you create it. And the people who create don't wait for luxury. They live in a way that attracts it. In the next section, I'll show you the second mindset shift. It explains why so many people never rise to the next level, even though they have the skills to do it. And it all comes down to this. What are you allowing, and what are you no longer willing to accept? But before we get there, ask yourself one question. What did you invest in today? Mindset 2. Stop settling. The second mindset that changed how I understood success was tough to accept at first. It was the realization that people don't get what they deserve. They get what they allow. When I first heard that, I didn't like it. In fact, I felt offended. What do you mean what they allow, I thought. But over time, I saw the truth in it. Everything I had, good or bad, was either something I created or something I tolerated. That's where real luxury thinking starts. Because this mindset isn't just about dreaming bigger. It's about refusing to accept less than you're capable of. It means learning to say no clearly and consistently. Saying no to conversations that go nowhere. No to relationships that drain your energy. No to the limits other people place on you. But most of all, saying no to the version of yourself that plays small. I've often said, don't ask for something you're not prepared to receive. But people do it all the time. They say they want a better life, but settle for less every day. They ask for respect, but quietly accept disrespect. They want more income, but agree to work for far less than they're worth. Here's the key. Your standards define your ceiling. Let me give you a real story. There was a time early in my career when I had just started earning decent money, but I was still thinking like someone afraid to lose it. I got invited to speak at a company event. They said, "Jim, we'd love to have you speak. Here's our budget." And the number they gave me was half my usual rate. I was about to say yes, just to be polite. But then I remembered what Earl Schaff told me. If you don't value yourself, no one else will. So I smiled and said thank you. I appreciate the offer. But this is the standard I work at. If you're able to meet it, I'd love to bring value to your people. What do you think happened? 2 days later, they found the budget. Not because they suddenly had more money, but because they realized I wasn't going to lower my value just to fit in. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop lowering yourself, the world starts rising to meet you. A luxury mindset means knowing you're not on clearance. You're not waiting for someone else's permission. You're not begging, you're choosing. And to live like that, you have to change how you see yourself on the inside. Because most people aren't limited by their potential. They're limited by what they think they have the right to ask for. Let me ask you directly. When was the last time you asked yourself, what will I no longer allow in my life? That question is the start of real change. Once I did a simple experiment. I wrote down 10 things I would no longer tolerate in my day. Things like checking my phone before breakfast, or sitting through pointless conversations out of politeness. And within a week, I noticed something. I didn't feel arrogant. I felt grounded. Not proud, just clear. It felt like dignity. And that's something people with a luxury mindset always carry. They have boundaries. Not walls, not explanations. Just quiet, firm limits. They don't justify their standards. They just live by them. I remember a friend once told me, every time you accept less, you're teaching your brain to lower the bar. That hit me hard, because I started remembering all the times I said yes to meetings I didn't believe in, to prices I didn't stand behind, to situations where I gave more than I received and called it humility. That day, I made a new decision. I don't lower, I rise. And the right people, the ones who respect that standard, will rise with me. That's what a luxury mindset looks like. Every no is a yes to your values. Every boundary is an act of respect, not against others, but for yourself. You stop living like a compromise, and you start living like the main architect of your life. So let me ask you again, clearly, what will you no longer allow in your life starting today? Be honest about the answer, because once you raise your standard, the world has no choice but to adjust. Confidence isn't loud, but it always rearranges the room. In the next part, I'll show you something people almost never talk about. Why many high achievers still feel unsatisfied, even when they look successful on the outside. And the answer has everything to do with how you end your day. Mindset 3. Strength in Stillness. This mindset didn't just change what I did during the day. It changed the entire rhythm of my life. I made a habit of ending each day stronger than I started it. Most people live in reverse. They wake up with good intentions, but fall asleep disappointed. They begin with hope and end with frustration. But a luxury mindset isn't built on hope alone. It's built on rhythm. And the most powerful part of that rhythm is not in the morning, like many people think. It's at night. I once heard this rule from my mentor, Earl Schaff. Don't start your day until you've finished it on paper. But over the years, I added something of my own. Don't go to sleep until you've locked in a win. Now that doesn't mean you stay up all night working. It means you end the day with intention. That you don't just let the day pass. You lead it all the way through until the end. I used to finish my days tired and disconnected. I'd collapse in front of the TV. Tell myself I'm exhausted. I deserve to relax. But that kind of evening didn't restore me. It drained me more. Because I wasn't really resting. I was escaping. So I changed my routine. I built a simple nighttime ritual around the luxury mindset. No screens, no noise. Just me, a notebook, and some silence. I'd spend 20 minutes before bed writing down 3 wins from the day, 1 lesson I learned, and 1 decision I wanted to carry into tomorrow. It didn't feel like work. It felt like closing a loop. Like finishing the day on purpose, instead of letting it fade away. And what happened? My evenings became peaceful. My mornings became clear, because I wasn't waking up in confusion. I was continuing something I had already begun the night before. That's when I understood this clearly. Luxury thinking isn't just about how you start the day. It's about how you finish it. If you fall asleep in chaos, you'll wake up in disorder. But if you fall asleep with clarity, you'll wake up with strength. There's something even deeper here. Success doesn't only grow through movement. It's also formed in stillness. In the moments when everything is quiet, your mind starts to process, reflect, and make sense of who you are becoming. People often ask me, "Jim, how do you stay focused with everything going on in the world?" And I tell them the truth. I reconnect with myself every night before I sleep. Most people don't do that. They know what's in the news. They know what other people think. But they don't know what they themselves actually felt that day. They don't ask, "What did I allow today? What did I gain? What did I lose?" And that moment, that quiet self-check, is where the luxury mindset lives. Not for social media, but for your soul. I once heard a powerful idea. The richest people in the world aren't those with the most money. They're the ones with the most clarity. And I believe that. Because clarity gives you peace, and peace gives you strength. Here's the irony. Sometimes, the people who look the most successful on the outside are the ones who lack nighttime reflection the most. They appear confident, but fall asleep feeling empty. Why? Because if you never take time to review your day, you never fully live it. Even big achievements can feel hollow when there's no stillness to help you absorb them. I remember speaking at an event filled with business leaders and high earners. Instead of opening with advice, I asked them one question. Who were you today before you walked into this room? And the room went silent. Because that question wasn't about titles. It was about self-awareness. And the truth is, that's what determines how ready you are for the next level. A luxury mindset includes that kind of honesty. It doesn't ask, "Do I look successful?" It asks, "Am I actually living like someone who's successful? Is the silence inside me real, or just an escape?" Because a person's true level isn't revealed when they talk. It's shown in how they sit quietly with themselves. Not when they're on stage, but when they're alone. Not when they're praised, but when they fall asleep. So let me ask you something you probably haven't been asked in a long time. When was the last evening that truly felt like a victory? Not because of what you achieved, but because of what you understood. If you can't remember, don't feel bad. Just make tonight that evening, and then repeat. Because a luxury mindset isn't something you choose once. It's something you practice quietly every night. In the next shift, we'll go deeper. Because your thoughts don't live in your head alone. They live in your surroundings. And your environment either supports your growth or slowly breaks it down. If you think you can grow while living in a space that drains you, this next shift will show you what needs to change. Mindset 4. Audit your circle. The fourth mindset that completely changed the direction of my life was this realization: I can't think in a luxury mindset if I'm constantly surrounded by voices that echo poverty. And I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about mindset, the words, energy, and habits that come from the people you spend time with. A luxury mindset doesn't grow in isolation. It's either supported by your environment or slowly torn down by it. Early in my journey, I was still hanging around people who did nothing but complain. They blamed the government. They blamed taxes, the weather, their boss, their neighbors. At first, I thought it was just conversation, but over time, their words became my thoughts. And that hit me harder than any financial loss ever could. If the people around you say, "That's impossible every day," eventually, you start believing it. If they say that kind of success isn't for people like us, your brain starts treating that belief as a fact. Even if deep down you have bigger dreams, they'll start to sound more like fantasy, not a plan. That's why I made one of the hardest decisions in my life. I became extremely selective about who I allowed into my space. It wasn't easy. Some of those people had been around for years. But I realized something simple. Loyalty to your future matters more than loyalty to old habits. The people around you are either helping you grow, or they're quietly keeping you stuck. They're either raising your standards or lowering them without even meaning to. A luxury mindset can't survive in an environment of constant complaining. It needs clarity. It needs challenge. It needs people who make you think bigger, people who remind you what's possible, people who see more in you than you currently see in yourself. To me, the right circle feels like a mirror. You can see yourself clearly in it, the real you, not just the comfortable version. It's not about being the smartest person in the room. It's about being in a room where smart conversations happen, where every interaction either stretches your thinking or strengthens your values. Because in the right environment, you don't have to defend your ambition. You don't have to downplay your standards. You don't have to shrink your goals to make others comfortable. You just grow, and growth starts to feel normal. I always say, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. That's not about pride. It's about potential. You don't need to compete, but you do need to be around people who remind you that you're still capable of more. So if you're serious about the next shift in your mindset, don't just look in the mirror. Look around the room. Ask yourself, who consistently supports my vision? Who drags me back into doubt? Who makes me second guess what I know is right? And who challenges me to rise higher every single day? Because the truth is, you can do all the inner work in the world, but if you keep returning to a space that contradicts it, your results will stall, and your mindset will begin to bend under pressure. That's why this shift matters so much. Luxury thinking can only take root in an environment that respects your growth. It's not about cutting everyone out of your life. It's about becoming aware, protecting your standards, and choosing connection over obligation. In the next shift, we go even deeper, because it's not just about people anymore. It's about the physical space you live in, the objects, the silence, the visual cues that either remind you of your value or pull you back into distraction. Shift 5 is where mindset becomes visible, and it starts with how your space speaks to you when no one else is around. Mindset 5. Your space reflects your value. This mindset that caught me off guard with its power was the realization that my physical space was directly connected to how I thought about myself. I began to see that the room I lived in was a mirror of what I believed I deserved. The silence in the room often reflected the noise in my head. The clutter on my desk mirrored the clutter in my thoughts. The lighting, the smell, the way things were arranged. None of it was neutral. Every single detail was sending signals to my brain, signals that either reminded me of structure and dignity, or told me I was just getting by. At one point, I was living in a small apartment. Nothing fancy, just one modest room, a wooden floor, and an old desk. For a long time, I treated that space like it didn't matter. I didn't clean it carefully. I didn't arrange it with purpose. I didn't decorate it. I lived like someone who was passing through, waiting for a better place, a better phase, a better future. But then, I decided to run a small experiment. I took 30 minutes to dust the shelves. I rearranged the furniture so it felt more open. I cleaned off the surface of my desk. I lit a candle. I gave the room some care, not because I had to, but because I wanted to see what would happen if I did. And here's what I noticed. My thinking changed. My decisions became clearer. My ideas became more focused. Even my posture changed when I walked into the room, because the space no longer felt temporary. It felt like a place where I belonged, a place where good thinking was supposed to happen. A luxury mindset doesn't require a mansion. It requires intention. It means living in a space where every detail says, "You matter here." That doesn't mean expensive furniture. It means a chair that supports your back. It means a clean surface that makes you want to sit down and think. It means light that helps you feel alert, not drained. That shift from, "This is just where I sleep," to, "This is where I think," transformed the way I moved through my days. Every time I cleaned my desk, I wasn't just tidying up. I was clearing my mind. And the opposite was also true. When the room was messy, my thoughts felt disorganized. When there was noise, I had trouble thinking clearly. That's why I started treating my space like a partner in my process. Someone once asked me, "Jim, how do you always seem so calm and collected?" And I told them the truth. It's not luck, it's structure. I keep my space in order, because it's hard to feel in control of your life when the first thing you see in the morning is chaos. So now I ask myself a simple question almost every day. Is my space aligned with the person I want to become? If the answer is no, I don't judge myself. I just make a small change. Because the luxury mindset isn't about perfection. It's about responsibility. If you want to think clearly, you have to live in an environment that supports that kind of thinking. In the next shift, we'll look at something even more subtle, your language. Because the words you use, especially when you speak to yourself, are either building your value or slowly breaking it down. And most people don't even realize they're doing it. Mindset 6. Word shape. Worth. This sixth mindset is one of the most subtle, but also one of the most powerful. It's about your language, specifically the words you use every day, both when you talk to others and when you talk to yourself. Most people don't realize this, but your vocabulary is like a personal operating system. It's the code that programs your mindset. Every phrase you say either moves you forward or keeps you stuck where you are. The luxury mindset begins with clean, elevated, and responsible language. Not fake, not flashy, but clear and intentional. I remember once speaking at an event. Afterward, a young man came up to me and said, "Jim, I've just never been a star. I never had a real chance." I looked him in the eye and said, "If that's how you talk about yourself, then that tells me one thing: you haven't made peace with your value yet." He went quiet. Then I added something I've believed for years. Words don't just describe reality, they create it. Every day people casually throw out phrases like, "I can't," "I've always been unlucky," "That's just who I am," and they don't realize the damage those words are doing. That kind of language, that poverty language, becomes a mental ceiling. It limits how high you allow yourself to rise. Luxury thinking sounds completely different. It uses phrases like, "I'm learning," "I'm improving," "I'll figure it out," "I choose to." Those aren't just affirmations, they're instructions to your brain. They tell your mind to look for solutions instead of excuses. I remember testing this myself. I replaced just one phrase. Instead of saying "I have to," I started saying "I choose to." And everything shifted. Because when you say "I have to," you make yourself a victim. But when you say "I choose to," you take responsibility. You reclaim power. You're no longer being pushed. You're leading. That's a luxury trait. And here's something else I've learned. People with a strong mindset don't speak carelessly. They don't toss words around just to fill the silence. They understand that every sentence is either an investment in clarity or a leak into confusion. They know that tone matters, that precision matters, that the language you use becomes the thinking you live inside. So if you're serious about raising your mindset, start by raising your vocabulary. Write down the phrases you catch yourself saying the most. Listen to how you speak when no one's around. Pay attention to the way you explain your choices, even to yourself. Because most people don't live in physical clutter. They live in mental clutter created by messy words. They would never let their house stay dirty for weeks. But they let toxic phrases bounce around in their mind for years. Changing this doesn't require therapy. It just requires awareness. This isn't some clever mental trick. It's basic self-discipline. Clean up your language, and your life starts following. In the next shift, we're going to talk about the most surprising one of all. The hidden fear that keeps people from allowing real abundance. Most people say they want more, but deep down, they're afraid to fully receive it. And until that changes, nothing else really sticks. Mindset 7. Allow for overflow. This seventh mindset is one of the most surprising and one of the most misunderstood. It's the shift from limitation to permission, from survival to overflow. Because even though most people say they want more income, more freedom, more beauty in their lives, very few are actually ready to receive it. And even fewer give themselves permission to fully step into it. Here's the hidden pattern. People will say, "I'm fine with what I have." But what they often mean is, "I don't feel comfortable wanting more." Why? Because somewhere along the way, they learned that abundance is selfish, or excessive, or wrong. They were told, "Be grateful, don't ask for too much," and they confused settling with humility. But the truth is this: luxury thinking is not about greed. It's about capacity. It's about opening yourself up to fullness without guilt, without apology, without cutting your vision down to fit someone else's standards. I remember a moment in my own life that made this clear. There was a house I really wanted to buy. It was beautiful. It had everything I needed and more. But when the opportunity came, I hesitated. I told myself it's too much. I'm not. And I didn't even finish the sentence. Because my old mindset already knew how to shut the door. That's when I caught it. And I told myself something new. I will no longer shrink my dreams to match my comfort zone. I will expand my capacity to match what I'm truly ready for. That's what overflow means. It's not about excess for the sake of show. It's about having enough and then some so you can give from your strength, not your scraps. Overflow means you don't just have time. You have space to think. You don't just have energy. You have focus. You don't just have money. You have generosity. A luxury mindset says, I'm not afraid of carrying something great because I know it's not just for me. It's for the people I serve, the example I set, the legacy I leave behind. Someone once told me, Jim, you live too boldly for your background. And I looked at them and said, that's not my fault. It's not wrong for my dreams to be bigger than the box I was raised in. And that's the final shift. You don't have to fight for permission. You have to grant it to yourself. Because life is listening, and life gives according to what you're truly open to receive. Not what you wish for, but what you allow. So let me ask you something very directly. Do you allow yourself abundance? Not wastefulness, but fullness. Do you ask for just enough to get by? Or are you willing to say, I'm ready to receive everything I'm capable of handling? Because that statement doesn't just change your mindset. It changes your posture. It changes your tone. It changes your entire direction. This is the final shift. To move from just enough into more than enough. To stop surviving and start building from strength. And now that we've reached the end of these 7 mindset shifts, it's time to turn inward. Because this kind of thinking doesn't stay in theory. It lives in how you speak to yourself, in what you tolerate, in what you plan before you sleep. Let's take a moment now to reflect on where you stand. Because a luxury mindset doesn't live in theory. It shows up in action, in the way you glance at yourself in the mirror each morning, in how you carry yourself when no one else is looking, in the silence before you fall asleep. So let's do one thing together right now, a short mental exercise. Not to judge yourself, just to see clearly where you are and where you still have room to grow. Use a simple scale from 1 to 10. 1 means not at all. 10 means completely true. Answer fast. Don't try to sound better than you are. Don't pause or reframe. Your first answer is the most honest. Here's the first question. 1. How much do I allow myself to live with dignity? I'm not asking whether you feel proud. I mean, do you treat yourself like someone who deserves better? Do you allow yourself better food, better clothing, better words? Or do you just settle for whatever gets the job done? Ask yourself, is the space around me a place that reflects my value? Or does it feel like I'm just making do? This isn't about luxury items. It's about atmosphere. Is it a luxury emotionally to be me? 2. How much do my days start and end with clarity? Do you begin the day with direction? Or just a to-do list and pressure? When you go to bed, do you feel like the day was closed with intention? Or do you just crash and hope tomorrow feels different? Because a luxury life doesn't come from outcomes. It comes from rhythm, not control through tension, but control through clarity. 3. How selectively do I choose my environment? Who are the people that surround you? Do you let them speak into your thoughts, into your mood, into your belief in yourself? Or do you choose your space and circle intentionally? You are not just shaped by people. You're shaped by the thoughts you hear, the content you consume, and the energy you let into your mental space. So ask honestly, do I let my environment decide for me, or do I decide what enters? 4. How much do I invest in myself daily rather than drain myself? Are your habits building strength, or are they just motion without return? Does your day leave you clearer, or just more tired? Every action is either capital or waste. Success isn't about how long you grind. It's about how much you gain from what you do. Each choice is either a deposit or inflation. Are you growing stronger, or just getting through? 5. How respectfully does my inner voice speak to me? When no one's around, what kind of tone do you hear inside? Are you building yourself up, or quietly tearing yourself down? Do you lead yourself like someone who deserves guidance, or do you criticize yourself like someone who needs fixing? A luxury mindset doesn't tolerate inner bullying. It doesn't scream. It doesn't shame. It leads with calm direction. You are not your critic. You are your leader. Now take a moment. Look at your 5 scores. You're not being graded. You're being honest. These numbers aren't the final answer. They're the starting point. Each low number is not a failure. It's just a place to begin something better. Because raising your mindset doesn't mean changing everything at once. It means changing one habit, one phrase, one boundary. That's how real change works. And that's what luxury actually looks like, not the outer display, but the inner standard. Let me tell you, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be aware. That's real progress. And if anything in this video made you stop even for a second, hit like. That click is for you, not for me. It's you recognizing that this moment mattered. And if you want to keep growing with me, subscribe to the channel. That's the simplest way to stay in motion alongside people who think like this. One more thing. In the comments, tell me which question hit you the hardest. You don't need to explain. Just say, for example, question 4 stopped me. That comment isn't just feedback. It's self-awareness. And maybe someone else will read it and start changing too. After you finish this video, come back to these 5 questions again. Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow morning. Just sit with them in silence. Because luxury isn't about what you own. It's about having space to hear yourself clearly. And that's where real strength begins. And here we are at the end. But if you've really followed this journey, you know this isn't a conclusion. It's a beginning. Because a luxury mindset isn't a destination you arrive at once. It's a way of traveling. It's how you think, how you breathe, how you decide, and how you carry yourself every day even when no one notices. It's not about impressing anyone. It's about never betraying yourself again. You can choose to live with less if that's your conscious choice. But if you've been settling, that's not living. That's surviving. And you weren't made for survival mode. When I first heard the phrase, success is not something you pursue, it's something you attract, I didn't understand it. I thought you had to hustle, chase, prove yourself. But over time, I learned the real truth. Success is attracted by the kind of person you become. It comes from your inner posture, your sense of dignity, your clarity, your steadiness, the quiet confidence that shows up in your eyes, not your words. It doesn't scream. It doesn't need permission. It moves like the morning, quiet and certain. So if something in this video touched you, don't rush back into routine. Don't scroll past this and forget it. Sit in the stillness for a moment. Look at your day like an architect, not a critic. Because you are a builder. You are a designer of direction, not just a responder to circumstance. Let me leave you with this one phrase. It's guided my entire life, and it still works. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And soon, the job will begin working for you. That's not a motivational quote. That's a principle. And if you truly understand it, you now hold something rare. A key, not just to achievement, but to a life where luxury isn't just what's outside you. It's the way you carry yourself through everything. So what comes next? You don't need to wait for a better life. You need to allow a better version of yourself. And once you do, life will rise to meet you. Because that's how the law works. Thank you for thinking with me today. And don't stop now. You're already on the path.